Good afternoon. I'm Ryan Midda, Vice Chair of the Faculty Senate. I'm proud to welcome you to the 2021 Fall Faculty Assembly. I'd like to start by thanking Molly Barth, Jared Hauser, Miriam Adam, and Peter Colkay, my fellow Blair faculty members, for the musical prelude they provided. I would like to thank you all for joining us here today. For many of us, this is the first time we have been together in person since the Fall Faculty Assembly in 2019. And for those of you watching online, welcome, and we are proud to have you watch the first live simulcast of an in-person Fall Faculty Assembly. As we begin this new academic year, we look forward to sharing the successes we have experienced together and the challenges many of us have weathered, all while looking ahead to the coming year. During today's assembly, you'll hear addresses from Chancellor Daniel Dearmeyer, Provost Sibel Raver, Faculty Senate Chair Mark Magnuson, and then a presentation from a fellow faculty member, virologist and pediatric infectious disease specialist, Dr. James Crow. We'll also have a chance to celebrate many of our fellow faculty members today through the recognition of those who have been at Vanderbilt for 25 years and with the annual Fall Faculty Assembly Awards. Thank you to all of you who have come together here today, either in person or online. And with that, I would like to introduce the first of tonight's speakers. An internationally renowned political scientist and management scholar, Daniel Dearmeyer is the 9th Chancellor of Vanderbilt University. Dearmeyer is a fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, the Guggenheim Foundation, and the Canadian Institute of Advanced Research. He has published 4 books and more than 100 research articles, mostly in the fields of political science, economics, and management, but also in other areas ranging from linguistics, sociology, and psychology to computer science, operations research, and applied mathematics. Prior to his position at Vanderbilt, Dearmeyer served in leadership and faculty roles at the Stanford Graduate School of Business, the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University, and the Harris School of Public Policy at the University of Chicago, where he was responsible for all academic and research programs across the university. Throughout his career, Dearmeyer has been an advisor to governments, nonprofits, and leading companies. He has served as a board member for the University of Chicago Medical Center, the Field Museum, the National Opinion Research Center, and the management board of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, among several other organizations. A first-generation college graduate, Dearmeyer earned a PhD in political science from the University of Rochester. He also holds a master's degree in political science and philosophy. Please welcome Chancellor Daniel Dearmeyer.
Well, thank you very much, Vice Chair, for the kind introduction. Chair Magnuson, Provost Raver, esteemed faculty and honored guests. Our gathering today, with some of us here in person and others joining remotely, is a fitting symbol for our journey over the past year. We've all adapted quickly to the multiple models of connecting, teaching, and conducting our scholarship. However you're joining us today, I wish you a warm welcome, and I thank you for being here. In much the same way that you stepped up in the face of extraordinary circumstances during the last academic year, you have done this once again, as vaccines have become widely available. Today, more than 94% of the Vanderbilt community is vaccinated, yet, as the Delta variant is causing new complications, we are once again in close communication with the expert at Vanderbilt University Medical Center and public health officials to make sure our campus is as safe as possible. Even so, your tenacity and your resilience gives me great confidence in the year ahead. You moved quickly to develop to continue your research, and you provided our students with the educational experiences and scholarship opportunities so needed among these most difficult of circumstances. Your dedication and your creativity, coupled with the support you offered those around you in the Vanderbilt community, helped make last year one of our university's finest hours. I thank you on behalf of the entire Vanderbilt community for your remarkable resilience, your adaptability, and your steadfast commitment to our shared academic mission. In particular, I want to acknowledge faculty members from Vanderbilt School of Nursing and Medicine. You truly are heroes and heroines, working countless hours and facing tremendous pressure and stress to help keep our campus community and our Middle Tennessee as safe as possible. You will forever have my and the university's deep gratitude. All of your actions and attitudes, all of ours, over the past year have served as a testament to the collaborative spirit that characterizes our university. And to our new faculty, joining us for your first faculty assembly today, I'd like to extend a warm welcome. You represent an extraordinary historic cohort, one that will be remembered for making the leap to a new institution, a new city, and new colleagues amid some of the most uncertain times in recent history. We are delighted that you have joined us and look forward to the new knowledge and opportunities that you will bring to our faculty. It's also my distinct pleasure to welcome Provost Sibel Raver, who joined us on July 1st. She was one of an exceptionally strong pool of candidates, but the front runner for the position from day one. She instinctively understands the collaborative, inclusive environment we have here in Vanderbilt and comes to us with deep experience in everything from faculty recruitment and development to designing effective global strategies. Already, Sibel and I have developed a great partnership. She's a wonderful addition to the university's leadership team, and we're lucky to have her. Last fall at this time, we didn't know how the year would go as we brought students back to campus and reopened our labs. We had a well-thought-out plan and detailed processes, but of course, reality can have a way of undoing things. When the time came, everybody stepped up and did their part. You devised creative solutions to continue teaching and pursuing your research. Students adapted to new ways of learning and connecting with classmates. And our staff shifted its work to accommodate the ever-changing circumstances. You know how the story ends. We conducted a successful academic year with no major COVID outbreaks and emerged even stronger than we started. This included recruiting 100 distinguished and diverse faculty members across numerous fields. Many of you are here today. It just happens to be exactly 100. Of these, 19 are the direct results of Destination Vanderbilt, a $100 million faculty hiring initiative. And what's more, we accomplished this during a time when many of our peers were scaling back. We also held in-person graduation ceremonies for not one but 2 classes. Not only did we need to plan double ceremonies for the undergraduates and all of the graduate and professional schools, we had to do it differently than ever before in new locations. And also we extended web coverage for thousands watching remotely. We had to ensure that we were doing it, protecting the health and safety as much as we could, and we had to pull off the planning in about 2 months instead of the normal 6 or 7. It took our entire community working together to pull this off, but we did it. The celebrations were joyous and deeply meaningful for our students and their families. Their experience was really unlike anything I've ever seen before. At launch events across the country this summer, I met incoming students and their parents who were more enthusiastic than ever about Vanderbilt because of our clear commitment and success in safely carrying on our mission despite the pandemic. I cannot say it enough, challenging months. We demonstrated to ourselves and to the world that we are an institution guided by our mission of scholarship and education, that we draw on a common set of values and a singular focus on continuing our work of making breakthrough discoveries, of creating new and original works of artistic expression, and of educating the next generation of leaders, no matter how difficult the circumstances will be. This is a profound strength of our university and is what will shape us and our future, not just in the year ahead, but also far beyond that. Working together in this uniquely collaborative environment, I truly believe there are no limits to what we can accomplish. Now, as we begin the new academic year, 3 important lessons have emerged from our experience over the past 18 months that bring the best traits of our Vanderbilt community into sharp relief. The first, when we work together as one community, we can move mountains. Think of our massive effort last year to pivot first to online learning, literally over the weekend, then to hybrid learning. At the beginning of 2020, if anybody had predicted we were going to do this, I doubt any one of us would have believed it. But we did it. And in the process, we've proven to ourselves that we can do extraordinarily challenging things once we commit to doing so and work together. This sense of unity and common purpose should guide us as we're creating the future of this great university. Second, we can operate at a higher level than we knew. Last year, we showed to ourselves and to others, we proved that we can do more. We can process more information and confidently handle risk and uncertainty. We can move faster and be more agile. And we can be more ambitious and set our aspirations higher. With Destination Vanderbilt, for example, we have made significant progress in expanding our world-class faculty at a rapid pace amid great uncertainty that paralyzed so many of our peers. We continue to recruit aggressively across multiple disciplines, and there will be more good news to share in the weeks and months ahead. This leads me to the third lesson. The third lesson I want us to take away from last year's success. We can do things our own way. We do not have to worry what others are doing or how we fit in. In fully opening our campus, we chart our own path based on all the data and understanding we could gather as a team. We didn't listen to the naysayers. We didn't look over our shoulders what our peers were doing. And this confidence required to do what we thought was right for us and for our community. As a result, we're beginning this year in a much better position than many of our peers. We continue to invest in students and faculty. We avoided the draconian cuts many of our peers had to take. And we continue to be in excellent financial health, despite the pandemic. One measure of that health is our endowment, which is now valued at more than $10 billion and among the largest among private United States universities. Years of careful financial stewardship have created a robust foundation on which we can build as we move forward. Knowing these things, knowing what we're truly capable of, we can set our aspirations as a university even higher. This means that by drawing on our immense individual talents and working together towards a common purpose, we can make a significant and positive impact on some of today's most difficult challenges. Let me just share a few examples. We are continuing to put the people and system in place to ensure a diverse and inclusive environment across and throughout the university. In July, we brought together equity, diversity, and inclusion, previously managed separately by the Provost Office for Inclusive Excellence, together with the Office for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, under the leadership of Dr. Andrew Churchwell, Vice Chancellor for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, to broaden and deepen our resources for fostering an environment where everybody can feel a sense of belonging and support. Doing so unifies all of our EDI efforts, streamlines decision-making, and provides our EDI programs with a single guiding vision so that we can make meaningful change faster. This fall, we will also advance equity and carry on the work of one of our most revered alumni with the launch of the James Lawson Institute for the Research and Study of Nonviolent Movements at Vanderbilt University. Drawing on Nashville's rich history as a battleground for civil rights, the Institute will train the next generation of community organizers in creating lasting change. It will stand for respectful dialogue and nonviolence and for cherishing our common humanity at this moment of troubling polarization in our nation, when these virtues are often overlooked or ignored. In fact, the bitter polarization that had taken hold in the weeks of months leading to the 2020 US presidential elections gave rise to the launch of Vanderbilt's Project on Unity in American Democracy. This initiative, which was launched in January, coincided with a shocking attack on our US Capitol. That tragic day confirmed our belief that an institution like Vanderbilt has a vital role to play in restoring facts, reason, data, and evidence back into the national political discourse, and to provide a model for how those of us with opposing ideologies can work within the parameters of an American democracy to advance solutions for the common good. During the turbulent 1960s, one of my predecessors, Chancellor Alexander Hurd, was criticized for inviting figures then considered too controversial to speak on campus, such as Black Power and Black Panther leader Stokely Carmichael. That was the challenge to free speech and open discourse of his day. In explaining his commitment to free speech on campus, Chancellor Hurd said, "Young people, and especially young people in college, cannot be shielded from the winds of opinion in our world. The university's obligation is not to protect students from ideas, but rather to expose them to ideas and to help make them capable of handling and hopefully having ideas." We live by the same values today. Early this year, our faculty senate affirmed these values in a resolution committing to providing an environment for open inquiry and the vigorous exploration and free expression of ideas at Vanderbilt. I am grateful for all of your fierce commitment to academic freedom and for your partnership as we continue the never-ending work of ensuring a campus environment where we can vigorously disagree, speak out, and try to persuade others to adapt our point of view, while at the same time respecting logic, evidence, and fact. Standing for civil, fact-based debate is one of the most important things a university can do at this moment in our nation's history. In the coming year, we will also increase our engagement with the city we call home. In a short time, Nashville has become a powerhouse for the region, a no-American locus of innovation and creativity. With this growth comes a once-in-a-generation opportunity to create a more perfect city, as well as helping to address vexing challenges, including poverty, unaffordable housing, equity gaps in education and health comes, and so much more. Vanderbilt is not a place apart from Nashville. We are proud to be an urban university inextricably woven into the fabric of the city, and to measure our success in part by the positive contributions we make in shaping life for all Nashvillians and the region. Over the years, truth be told, Vanderbilt had a mixed record of engaging with the community in meaningful and productive ways. However, the pandemic reminded us how crucial and how rich with promise the ties are between our university and Middle Tennessee. Over the last year, Vanderbilt students and faculty tutored public school students who were at the risk of falling behind in their education. Our law school created pro bono programs to help workers untangle issues related to filing for unemployment. The School of Nursing developed a door-to-door vaccination program. And of course, in the March of 2020, Mayor Cooper appointed Dr. Alex Alex Jahangir, professor of orthopedic medicine at Vanderbilt University Medical Center, as chairman of the Metro Nashville Board of Health. Dr. Jahangir became a strong advocate for the city's data-driven approach to COVID safety and full transparency. For all this good work with our city, most of our efforts so far have occurred in an ad hoc fashion, responding to the challenges as they arose. This year, we're exploring how we can do more to help the people of Nashville strengthen neighborhoods based on a true partnership. This will mean taking the work we're already doing, from undergraduate classrooms to your own laboratories, and partnering with local communities to find ways to apply what we do in ways that are most useful. We have seen some of this with panels Vanderbilt has hosted, such as the recent one on vaccine hesitancy, hosted by the Project of Unity in American Democracy, as well as candid conversations about racism in Nashville as part of the This Moment in America series Dr. Church will host it this year. But even beyond stepping up to play a greater role in making the region a place where everybody can thrive, Vanderbilt can do more to elevate the region as a center of innovation, creativity, and economic strength. Higher education is both a conduit and a catalyst for innovation. But this is a two-way street. As many of you know, a robust local innovation ecosystem is now essential for universities to ensure their research has the maximum impact. There are multiple ways that this is already happening at Vanderbilt, such as through the work of the Wondery or the Center for Technology Transfer, but we need to ask ourselves, how can we do more? Both Vanderbilt and Nashville are at a turning point, a rare pivotal moment with enormous potential. We can use our vast strength in biomedical innovation, cybersecurity, arts, policy, law, business, healthcare, education, and so much more to play a much greater part in writing Nashville's next chapter. And finally, witnessing the devastation we have seen this year with us this year as the pandemic and climate change have had so much negative impact, so much drama, so much suffering in our neighborhoods. We must harness your research and innovation to help society combat these deeply complex and urgent problems. And as important as what we're doing is how we're getting these things done. Our collaborative spirit and our intellectual curiosity combined with a determined pursuit of excellence in everything we do fuels our tremendous momentum. And this is how we will continue our course. We will double down on the long-standing commitment to radical collaboration in everything we do. We'll move forward in the belief that standing out is as important as standing together, because together we can do more. We'll create more opportunities for collaboration, mutual inspiration, and cross-disciplinary innovation through our residential colleges, Immersion Vanderbilt, and trans-institutional initiatives, such as the Vanderbilt Brain Institute, the Vanderbilt Institute for Surgery and Engineering, the Robert Penn Warren Center for the Humanities, and many more. Universities at their core are about helping the members of our community to reach their full potential. In the sentiment enshrined in Vanderbilt's alma mater, the words captured well, forward ever. As you are supported by your community, we'll ask you to support others, whether it's your student, your research teams, or junior faculty. We ask you to mentor, support, and challenge those that join our community of scholars. We have seen that when we lift each other up and share what we know, we can all grow stronger in the process. Going into this year, confident in our incredible achievements over the last year, I had to think about how you can raise the bar for yourself, for Vanderbilt, and for our community. How can you set our aspirations higher? And then how can we, as one university community, be even bolder, more agile, and more willing to take chances in our own way. We have seen that we are capable of so much more than we knew. This year, let us set our sights on new goals. Let us reach higher. Let us reimagine the extent to which Vanderbilt can be a force for understanding and innovation and a source of insight and understanding for our region and for the world. And then let us bring this vision to life with all the speed and grit and camaraderie we know so well as one Vanderbilt. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Dearmeyer, for your remarks and for the inspiring charges you have given us as we embark on this new academic year. I would like to introduce Provost Sibel Raver. Provost Raver assumed her role as Provost and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs July 1. She oversees all faculty, staff, programs, and initiatives for Vanderbilt's 10 schools and colleges. She also leads the university's research, admissions, student affairs, and residential life. A distinguished psychologist, Provost Raver holds a Cornelius Vanderbilt Chair and is Professor of Psychology and Human Development at Peabody College. Before joining Vanderbilt, she was Deputy Provost at New York University, where she worked to advance interdisciplinary research and provided leadership for faculty and graduate students. Raver previously held faculty positions at the University of Chicago's Harris School of Public Policy and at Cornell University's Department of Human Development. She is an outstanding addition to our Vanderbilt community, and I'm proud to welcome Provost Raver to the podium.
Thank you, Ryan, for that kind introduction. It's truly an honor to be here. There is a moment when one looks out at a faculty as a provost where you realize you all are my people in a wonderful and exhilarating way. It's a truly an honor to be here for that reason, but also because you are such an extraordinary group of faculty. I feel truly like I've landed the best job in terms of provost jobs in the country, for many of the reasons that you just heard. One of them is, of course, the leadership that Chancellor Dearmeyer provides us. He's truly a visionary and transformative leader, as you've heard. He offers such an inspiring path forward for Vanderbilt and, I think, in reimagining the future for higher education more broadly as we go forward. Vanderbilt has bold aspirations, and we're raising those aspirations even higher, as you just heard. I think we're only able to do this because of you. You represent our powerhouse community of 4,506 full-time faculty members, both at Vanderbilt University and at VUMC. And I love the precision of that number, and I love that I can say it because we can count it and that you all are here. Not all 4,000 of you, obviously. Your expertise, your wisdom, and your dedication fuel our daily mission and our ability to meet that mission. And together as individuals and as an institution, you reflect and inspire my own values as your provost and as a leader in higher education. And I thought I'd just take a few minutes to outline those values here. I think that universities are currently being challenged for their value proposition. What, after all, is our purpose as an institution, both individually as faculty members and collectively? This question, I think, is a fair one, and is increasingly asked not only by parents in the face of rising tuition, but by political leaders, as you'll have recalled from our last presidential election. What is the role of higher education? Why is it so expensive? What are we actually trying to accomplish? I think a lot about our responsibility as an institution and for our role in the nation as really meeting a triple bottom line. First, we're unequivocally dedicated to the highest caliber scholarly inquiry. Your work carves new paths. You break new ground in your respective fields and in your disciplines. And those discoveries are often fueled best by collaboration. Certainly that was true in my own career as a quantum scientist. I could pick so many amazing indicators of the manifold ways that this faculty meets and exceeds this bottom line. For example, for the last fiscal year, as of May, for example, of 2021, Vanderbilt employed faculty members received more than 800 federal awards and other foundation awards, totaling more than $220 million from sponsored programs. 914 VUMC employed faculty members received more than $830 million from external sponsors as of June 2021. So that's $1 billion in federal funding and outside support for the scholarship, which is not just a great source of revenue. It's a huge accolade, a huge signal of the incredible caliber of each of you who are doing that kind of work. And certainly that is reflected and matched by the scholarly caliber of excellence in creative expression, in creative writing, and in the humanities. Second, we're deeply dedicated to training the next generation of young leaders, and I think our role in terms of pedagogy and instruction is obviously what we often focus in on day to day. Whether that's undergraduate classrooms, in graduate seminars, or in internships, or in residential college settings. I know you spend an enormous amount of time lifting each other up, as Chancellor Dearmeyer has mentioned, and lifting your students up, and in passing it forward as you train that next generation of students in your labs, in your studios, in real-world apprenticeship settings. I celebrate and support you in finding those new and highly innovative ways of advancing your teaching to meet that bottom line. In that regard, you're tremendous innovators, particularly during this last 18 months of the pandemic. Despite those obstacles, the majority of your classes still had an in-person component, and you found extraordinarily creative ways to teach. Gil Gonzalez, for example, at the Center for Medicine, Health, and Society, used the real-time progressions of the COVID-19 pandemic to teach students about the practical implications of the American healthcare system. His class got to hear directly from renowned Vanderbilt colleagues, including epidemiologist William Schaffner and Stacy Duzitsina, who shared timely expertise regarding pharmaceutical development. In response to physical distancing requirements, Gail Shea at the Blair School helped voice students produce an animated version of a one-act opera by Maurice Ravel. As an opera fan, I'm thrilled to hear about how that happened, and I can't wait to be able to view it. The ways in which the students learned not only from recording their vocal parts, but also from the inner workings of working with a local filmmaker through that animation process are truly inspiring. Lisa Monteggia at the Vanderbilt Brain Institute took mentorship to the next level. I think that's really important to highlight mentorship in addition to classroom teaching. When she helped graduate student Tricia Horvath prepare and defend her thesis on Zoom, we continued, we really prevailed. And that achievement ultimately helped Tricia land a prestigious postdoctoral fellowship at Harvard that began earlier this summer. And she reports that she, in turn, has had to stand up her lab online, managing that transition to bringing her lab back into in-person effort. So those are two ways that we meet the bottom lines that I think are really important for higher education. Third, in my view, we are called to carry out scholarship that not only changes our fields, but changes the world. That is, we're called to carry out work that matters, that offers groundbreaking solutions to some of the world's greatest challenges, as Chancellor Dearmeyer just mentioned. I think this is true not only in our economic impact in our region, in our city, in the state, in the nation, but also through our social impact. I think about the work going on here at Vanderbilt to generate powerful solutions in cybersecurity, in politics, in policies focused on human migration, particularly as I watch the news, as we face new and frightening dimensions of international conflict. I think of all of the powerful solutions generated here at Vanderbilt on understanding the interactions between nature and the built environment in the midst of climate change and the threats of drought and flooding. I think of the powerful partnerships between so many of you to advance racial and socioeconomic equity, whether that's in education or in other sectors, across not only Peabody, but in the arts and in the sciences. These are just a few examples of ways that Vanderbilt is leading the nation in demonstrating the power of universities and the power of your ideas to generate tremendous solutions to big problems and to make our world a better place in the years ahead. In short, whether you are writing award-winning books, publishing articles in top-tier journals, or offering us a new lens through which to understand and address societal challenges through creative expression, you are meeting that third bottom line. You are setting new standards for university's impact on the world. In those moments and in many others, you are brave, you are creative, and you are very bold. And it is that bold initiative taking, that frame of ambition, that I think is so clear in Chancellor Dearmeyer's remarks and leadership, and in my own vision for my role as provost, that I hope that we leave this meeting today thinking about and aspiring to. As your Provost and Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs, I'm dedicated to supporting you as you take your projects and your goal and your work to that next level. Already in this year, we are off to a great start in building upon that trajectory, and I'll just share a few recent highlights so that you know what's possible or what's to come this year. At our new faculty orientation earlier this month, we officially celebrated the arrival of 130 new colleagues, including those who are new to Vanderbilt this year and those who joined in 2020. Those individuals, as well as each of you, bring profound insight, perspective, and experiences to the table. Importantly, we shifted from using that orientation from a transactional model where you would get your ID and get informed about HR and think about sort of the more routine aspects of your role here, to really instead thinking about this is a major moment in each faculty member's career. Each faculty member, including me, is crossing a key threshold in their career, in their trajectory, as well as the threshold of this institution. And so we talked a lot in that meeting, in that moment, about the values that we hold, the values that we share, and the ways that we can come together as a university to reach these higher aspirations. For the first time, new faculty orientation programming will span the entire first year of faculty members' careers at Vanderbilt, and the extended programs will include immersion events not only on campus but in Nashville, as well as small group sessions with myself and other leaders. Vice Provost George and Provost Office of Faculty Affairs in VUMC, Senior Associate Dean David Rayford and his Faculty Affairs team in the School of Medicine will be providing support and recognition for all of our faculty as they work and strive for those higher ambitions. We'll be outlining several new initiatives and different resources, not only for navigating your career path, but for gaining recognition for highest quality work. Really trying to assure or support you in positioning you to win international and national awards and to be admitted to prestigious academies. Vice Provost Padma Raghavan and Executive Vice President for Research Jennifer Pietenpaul are also partnering to enable our researchers to ask and answer these most important questions of our time, whether in the sciences and social sciences, in engineering, or in the humanities and the arts. We really want to hear from you about the ways that we can strengthen those supports. We also want to partner with you in amplifying and communicating about your work. How can we really take this moment to let our colleagues at other institutions and in the wider world know about your innovations and about your creative breakthroughs? I'll be calling upon you to think about that with me and about how we can recruit the nation's best undergraduates, graduate students, and PhD candidates, and next year's new faculty by more effectively getting the word out about where Vanderbilt is now, but also where we are headed. In sum, Chancellor Dearmeyer and I are fully committed to ushering in this new era of achievement for you, our faculty. Whether you just joined Vanderbilt or are celebrating decades of service at this university, this year marks a distinct threshold and a turning point in terms of our shared trajectory of possibility. Thank you for your warm welcome and for your dedication to that common purpose.
Thank you, Provost Raver, for your words. We look forward to working closely with you throughout this next year and for many years more. I'd now like to welcome Chancellor Dearmeyer back up to the podium to begin the awards portion of today's assembly.
Thank you. It's now time to recognize some of our extraordinary faculty colleagues. And many people to recognize today, beginning with those who are celebrating 25 years of service to Vanderbilt. Subsequently, I will present the 2021 honors for exceptional research, scholarship, and service to the university. Let's get started with the service awards. Each year, Vanderbilt recognizes those members of the faculty who have just completed 25 years of full-time service to the university. Having served as trusted colleagues, mentors, and mentees, these individuals embody the evolution of the Vanderbilt trajectory and what it means to grow and excel as part of this community. Their recognition today further underscores what we stand for and the lifelong journey of discovery and collaboration that fuels our research and pursuit of excellence. We will honor these colleagues with a chair bearing a brass plate engraved with a professor's name. The chairs will be delivered to their address of choice later this semester. Please hold your applause as I read each recipient's name in alphabetical order, and I will invite each of the recipients to line up in front of the stage so that we can take a group photo together after I read all the names. This year, 25-year chairs include Theodore Bapty, Research Professor of Electrical Engineering, William Booth, Professor of Political Science, Stephen Brown, Associate Professor of Biomedical Informatics and Director, Health and Medical Informatics, Anthony Millock, Professor of Radiation Oncology, William Cooper, Professor of Pediatrics, Cornelius Vanderbilt Chair in Pediatrics and Professor of Health Policy, Ariel Deutsch, Professor of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences, James G. Blakemore Chair in Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences and Professor of Pharmacology, Brian Donahue, Professor of Anesthesiology and Professor of Pediatrics, Jane Eastdown, Professor of Anesthesiology, Dale Farron, Research Professor of Training and Learning, Elliot Fieldstein, Assistant Professor of Biomedical Informatics, Edward Fisher, Professor of Anthropology, Cornelius Vanderbilt Chair in Anthropology and Professor of Health Policy, James Gaynor, Assistant Professor of Medicine, Ralph Haberman, Assistant Professor of Medicine, Daniel Himes, Assistant Professor of Emergency Medicine and Assistant Professor of Pediatrics, Elb Kisler, Professor of Medicine, and Catherine McLaughlin, Hakim Chair in Vascular Biology, Walid Irani, Assistant Professor of Medicine, Akosh Ledeshi, Professor of Computer Science, Professor of Electrical and Computer Engineering, and Director of Computer Science Graduate Studies, Vicky Madsen, Associate Professor of the Practice of Ministry and Director of Field Education, Jamie Miller, Associate Professor of Dermatology, Ontari Zabudzinda, Associate Professor of French, Ray Pascal, Associate Professor of Clinical Anesthesiology, Geraldine Reeves, Associate Professor of Nursing, Albert Reynolds, Professor of Pharmacology, Melissa Rose, Professor of Piano and Senior Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, Sandra Rosenthal, Professor of Chemistry, Jack and Pamela Egan Chair in Chemistry, Professor of Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering, Professor of Material Sciences and Engineering, and Professor of Pharmacology, Ronald Schimpf, Professor of Electrical Engineering, Owen H. Ingham Chair in Engineering and Director of the Institute for Space and Defense Electronics, Jinhei Shen, Research Associate Professor of Ophthalmology and Visual Sciences, Paul St. Jacques, Professor of Anesthesiology and Professor of Biomedical Informatics, Bradley Stancombe, Professor of Clinical Pediatrics, Mary Washington, Professor of Pathology, Microbiology and Immunology, and Dao Chun Yang, Professor of Mathematics. Congratulations to all of you. And I now ask those of you that are here with me to join me for a photo here. If you could step up. It's now time to honor those faculty members who have made a significant impact through scholarship, research, and creative expressions. Nominations for all of these awards were considered by the Faculty Research Award Review Committee, chaired by Tracy George. The committee includes prior faculty research recipients across Vanderbilt's 10 schools and colleges. Provost Raver and Chair Magnuson, will you please join me on stage to help me present these awards? The individuals I'm about to recognize have made remarkable breakthroughs in their individual research. They also represent the profound capacity for us to excel as part of this interconnected community. We will begin with the Chancellor Awards for Research, which recognize excellence in published and presented works. The following awards consist of a $2,000 cash prize and an engraved pewter julep cup, as you see over there. This year, we will be presenting this award to 9 faculty members across 5 different projects. As each individual recipient is announced, are invited to come up on stage to receive their award. The first recipient of the Chancellor Award for Research is Brandon Boyd, Associate Professor of History. Brandon was nominated by Bonnie Dow, Dean of Academic Affairs in the College of Arts and Sciences, Professor of Communication Studies and Professor of the Communication of Science and Technology, for his 2019 book, The Black Republic, African Americans and the Fate of Haiti. Haiti, of course, continues to be in our thoughts since the devastating earthquake and subsequent storms earlier this month have claimed thousands of lives and upended countless more. Brandon's work is an elegant meditation on the importance of Haiti to African American politicians and intellectuals from Reconstruction to the US occupation of the country in the early 1900s. For the Paul A. Murray Book Prize in Black Intellectual History, granted by the African American Intellectual History Society. Congratulations, Brandon. Next, I am delighted to honor Andrew Coe, Assistant Professor of Political Science. Andrew was nominated by David Lewis, Rebecca Webb-Wilson, University Distinguished Professor, University Professor of Leadership, Policy and Organization, Professor of Law, for his article in the American Political Science Review entitled Why. His research has led to an important advance in scholars' understanding of arms races and the cost of militarization. Andrew's article provides a compelling new explanation for why states spend immense sums of arming themselves rather than making mutual agreements to control this spending. The paper garnered widespread recognition, including by the International Security section of the American Political Science Association, where it was deemed Outstanding International Security Article of the Year. Congratulations, Andrew. Our third recipient is Sarah Mayu. Sarah is Associate Professor of Law, and she was nominated by Chris Guthrie, Dean and John Wayne Kane Tesserud Professor of Vanderbilt Law. Sarah's book, Free Justice, a History of the Public Defender in 20th Century America, chronicles the contentious history of public defenders from the Progressive era to the Cold War. She traces the internal divisions within the legal profession about how to provide counsel for criminal defendants, a division that helped create and fuel some of the inequality still present today in the United States criminal justice system. Sarah's book makes significant contributions to U.S. legal history and beyond, and we are proud to recognize her for her work today. Congratulations, Sarah. We're also proud to recognize Justice Yudukafi, Assistant Professor of Electrical Engineering. There he is. For his distinguished article in Nature Nanotechnology describing a new type of optical nanotweezers he developed that can trap and manipulate objects as small as proteins and viruses. This non-invasive technology has broad implications for the study and early detection of cancer, Alzheimer's, and much more. Justice was nominated by Richard Hagelin, Stevens Professor of Physics, and has received widespread recognition and acclaim from his peers, including the recent designation as a global rising star of light. How about that destination? By the academic journal Light, Science and Applications. Congratulations, Justice. Finally, I would like to congratulate a group of 5 faculty members for their collaboration about a cancer immunity, about their collaborative article about cancer immunotherapy, that's a mouthful, in Nature Nanotechnology. The 5 co-authors include Manuel Escano, Assistant Professor of Biochemistry, Justin Balco, Associate Professor of Medicine, Douglas Johnson, Associate Professor of Medicine, Mark Kelly, Associate Professor of Surgery, and John Wilson, Associate Professor of Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering. Nominated by Kane Jennings, Chair and Professor of Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering, this team made a major breakthrough in the fight against cancer. They developed a nanoparticle to find tumors and deliver a special type of molecule called CCAMP that our bodies produce naturally to fight off cancer. Their groundbreaking work focused on melanoma, but could impact the treatment of many cancers, including neuroblastoma, lung cancer, and beyond. Thank you for these vital contributions. Are you there? Fantastic.
Congratulations.
Next, we hand out the Chancellor Awards for Research in Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, an honor that we're presenting to 2 faculty members this year. This award recognizes excellence in research, scholarship, and creative expression that specifically advances our understanding of equity, diversity, and inclusion. It consists of a cash prize of $2,000 and an engraved pewter julep cup. The first award goes to Emily Lordy. Emily is a professor of English for her book, The Meaning of Soul, Black Music and Resilience Since the 1960s. Emily proposes a new understanding of the famously elusive concept of the meaning of soul in black music. She offers a vision of soul that foregrounds the intricacies of musical craft, the complex personal and social meanings of the music, and the leading role played by black women in this musical intellectual tradition. Her research is advancing the work of equity, diversity, and inclusion, not just for academic audiences, but also for a broader public. Emily was nominated by Dana Nelson, the Gertrude Conway Vanderbilt Chair in English, Professor of English, and Professor of Gender and Sexuality Studies. Congratulations, Emily. We are also recognizing Rena A.S. Robinson, Associate Professor of Chemistry. There she is. Who was nominated by John McLean, Stevenson Professor in Chemistry, for article in Alzheimer's and Dementia, Translational Research and Clinical Interventions. Rena has established herself as an emerging leader in addressing health disparity, as she immediately recognized the lack of biospecimens available from African American adults in Alzheimer's disease research centers nationally. She was part of an interdisciplinary team that collected interviews from African American participants that did participate in Alzheimer's research to develop positive messaging materials to encourage participation. She helped create a framework that will be broadly used and accessible to others to promote research participation in underserved communities. Congratulations, Rena. Our next award is the Thomas Jefferson Prize for Distinguished Service to the University. This prize is given annually to a faculty member who has shown service to Vanderbilt through contributions in the university's councils and governments. The award consists of a cash prize of $5,000 and an engraved pewter goblet. Pewter cup, pewter goblet? Okay, goblet. Well, there you go, pewter goblet. You get a pewter goblet. This year, I am pleased to recognize John McLean. John is the Stevenson Professor of Chemistry. He was nominated by, this is a long list, John Geer, Ginny and Connor Dean of the College of Arts and Science and Professor of Political Science, Bonnie Dow, Dean of Academic Affairs in the College of Arts and Science, Professor of Communication Studies and Professor of Communication of Science and Technology, David Wright, Stevens Professor of Chemistry and Professor of Chemistry and Dean of Graduate Education and Research in the College of Arts and Sciences, Kamisagi Francis and John, Downing Family Chair and Professor of Economics and Dean of the Faculty in College of Arts and Science. This is like, we have political scientists, we have communication scholars, chemists, Professor of Economics, John, quite an accomplishment. Having served as the chair of the Faculty Senate for the 2019-2020 year, John is known for his keen ability to build consensus and get things done, while always keeping the greater good of the community in mind. The Consultative Committee commends him for his calm and effective leadership of the Faculty Senate during one of the most difficult chapters the university has ever faced. Thank you, John, for your enduring contributions, and congratulations. Our final award this afternoon is Vanderbilt's top faculty honor, the Earl Sutherland Prize for Achievement in Research. The award is bestowed upon a faculty member who has garnered significant critical recognition on a national or global scale. The prize consists of $10,000 and an engraved pewter julep cup, and the winner's name added to a silver bowl, following a famous design by Paul Revere. You get two things. So this year, the award goes to Gordon Logan. Centennial Professor. Gordon is a Centennial Professor of Psychology in the College of Arts and Science, who joined Vanderbilt in 2000. As one of the most productive and influential cognitive scientists of his era, Gordon's empirical and theoretical work has spanned all of the major paradigms of modern cognitive psychology, including attention, memory, executive control, response inhibition, spatial cognition, and beyond. For example, decades ago, he established what is known as the stop signal paradigm, which generated a quantitative measure of impulse control. This work continues to serve as the most significant framework for studying response inhibition. It has also had very important clinical implications, particularly in research related to children with ADHD. Gordon has published more than 240 peer-reviewed articles, including 13 papers in Psychology Review, for those of you that know, one of psychology's premier journals. He has also published more than 70 articles in the highly impactful Journal of Experimental Psychology Group. His work has garnered more than 48,000 citations, and his accomplishments have received the highest recognition policy possible within science, including his election to for the National Academy of Science last year. He was nominated by Randolph Blake, Centennial Professor of Psychology, Professor of Ophthalmology and Visual Sciences, and the 2000 Sutherland Prize winner. Gordon, please accept my sincere congratulations on this tremendous honor. As we conclude this year's Faculty Awards, I would like to extend my gratitude to all of our honorees. Thanks as well to the colleagues, mentors, and friends who have made the nomination, and to the Faculty Research Awards Review Committee for their careful review. Today's recognition show what we can accomplish when we set our aspirations high. Thank you.
Congratulations to all the faculty members who are honored here today. We are proud to count you as colleagues here at Vanderbilt. I'm now happy to turn over the program to our Faculty Senate Chair for this academic year. Dr. Mark A. Magnuson is the Louise B. McGavick Professor of Molecular Physiology and Biophysics, Medicine, and Cell and Developmental Biology. He also serves as the Director of the Vanderbilt Center for Stem Cell Biology. A member of the Vanderbilt faculty since 1987, he's a distinguished scholar who has co-authored over 200 peer-reviewed articles, and his research has been funded by the National Institutes of Health for over 25 years. Please welcome Faculty Senate Chair Mark Magnuson.
Thank you, Ryan. It's nice to have a fellow Iowan introduce me. I'd like to begin by thanking Chancellor Dearmeyer. He began his leadership at Vanderbilt at a very trying time, yet successfully navigated us through the past year. We are all very thankful. In addition, we are pleased with his recruitment of Provost Raver and look forward to working with both him and the Provost during the coming year. Thank you, Chancellor. We are also indebted to Catherine McTamity and Ben Harris, past chair and vice chair of the Faculty Senate. They too faced a uniquely challenging year and helped us navigate through it by surfacing many emergent issues and concerns. Thank you, Catherine and Ben. I encourage all faculty to communicate with their elected senators. While our meetings will continue to occur via Zoom during the fall semester, we hope in the spring to have our first in-person meeting in the beautiful new Faculty Commons space on 19th Avenue, which is shown here. My comments will not be lengthy, but I have a few thoughts I'd like to share. My perspective is as someone who has witnessed a remarkable growth of this university since 1985, or the past 36 years. For me personally, Vanderbilt has been a great place to have a multifaceted career. It allowed me to focus on my research while also spending some time in clinical practice and administration. The Vanderbilt of 2021 is a very different place than of 1985. We are now better because many people committed their energies to improving the scope of our research program, the caliber of our students, the number and quality of our buildings, and we are now a top-tier university. Metrics that assess our progress are as good as they've ever been, and you've heard about the tremendous size of our endowment. Prior leaders have said many things, but two in particular have stuck with me. First, if you are not moving forward, you are falling back. Second, no margin, no mission. As a private university, our actions must be fiscally responsible and constantly aware of the revenue streams as we seek excellence. Having achieved so much over the past 3 decades, we cannot rest on our laurels. We'd lose valuable momentum and begin to slip backwards. A critical factor in the success of Vanderbilt has been the synergistic relationship between VU and VUMC. Although we are now 2 legally distinct entities, we remain one Vanderbilt. With this in mind, the theme of the Faculty Senate for the upcoming year is enhancing excellence through symbiosis and synergies. For the non-biologists, symbioses are mutually beneficial relationships between different people or groups, and synergies are interactions or cooperation that produce a combined effect greater than the sum of the parts. It is a goal of the Faculty Senate during the forthcoming year to work cooperatively with our new Provost and nearly new Chancellor to move Vanderbilt further along the path towards comprehensive excellence. Symbiotic and synergistic relationships between faculty and administrators, between VU and VUMC, and between different faculty are essential for that to happen. I'd like to discuss issues that affect our faculty, both individually and in aggregate, and we'll do so by highlighting our old oak leaf logo. The brand recognition of Vanderbilt University has been greatly enhanced by our highly emblematic logo. Everyone knows many different types of trees, not just oaks, dot our campus. Indeed, our campus is a designated arboretum that contains over 6,000 geolocated trees and shrubs. We sustain this designation by planting and nurturing 150 to 200 new trees annually. The most famous tree on campus is the bicentennial oak. While it is now a truly impressive tree, at some time in the past it was a small acorn that had the good fortune of not being eaten by a squirrel. Instead, it took root and grew. The many geolocated trees and shrubs at Vanderbilt serve as a metaphor for our faculty. Like the bicentennial oak, outstanding faculty members were at some time in their careers just seedlings. They needed time and essential energies to grow and prosper. While seedlings require sunshine and water, young faculty benefit from mentorship, graduate trainees, a conducive climate, the right kinds of infrastructure, and sometimes money. To grow strong and successful faculty, we must for sure choose those that are robust. Towards this end, I congratulate Chancellor Dearmeyer for the Destination Vanderbilt initiative. It is enabling us to recruit high-quality faculty whose research and creative endeavors will grow and prosper. As we grow new faculty, we must also avoid planting too many seedlings of the same variety. For this reason, I also congratulate Chancellor Dearmeyer for supporting diversity and inclusion as an essential criteria in our recruitment decisions. A diverse faculty provides us with different viewpoints and capabilities and enables us to attract the most talented graduate trainees. It may not be apparent from a distance, but we have many varieties of oak trees on campus. Indeed, this slide shows acorns from some 18 different ones that were collected last fall by my colleagues, and she likes to walk around campus, Dr. Anna Osapovic. Nurturing excellence at Vanderbilt is an ongoing journey, and I am thrilled that our Chancellor and Provost endorse this concept. I am hopeful that they make investments necessary to enhance the potential of our faculty, since only then will we, as a great university, be rewarded by their election to prestigious societies and their receipt of significant awards. Investments in infrastructure are proven means of nurturing the growth of faculty. While a sprinkler system helps many trees to grow, the infrastructure that faculty need are such things as computing resources, sophisticated microscopes, and animal care facilities. In the same way that Vanderbilt plants over 100 new trees annually to maintain its arboretum, it must strategically invest in renewing its infrastructure. Sadly, infrastructure for research, like sprinkler systems, quickly falls into disrepair and becomes outdated without recurrent investments. It doesn't always require Vanderbilt's own resources to nurture its faculty, growth of its faculty. Often it only requires foresight to plant the right tree in the right environment and to give it time to grow. Simply assuring that faculty are in an environment that fulfills their individual needs can make a huge difference in their academic growth. Even when great recruitment choices are made, other factors may come into play that hinder growth and development of the faculty. Vanderbilt must be willing to utilize resources in ways that broadly enhance faculty success. For example, over my 36 years, many core facilities have been built that not only enhance the research of faculty, but they enable the recruitment and retention of exceptional graduate students and postdoctoral trainees. Together, these things enable us to make progress on the path towards greater excellence. Again, let me come back to our oak trees. We can't be satisfied with a few scattered oaks. We need to consider our faculty in toto, as an arboretum. We don't want just a few outstanding. We need and want many. To expand our arboretum of faculty, it is necessary to focus on specific programs and their needs. Across campus, the growth of many outstanding faculty has been nurtured by strong linkages to our Cancer and Diabetes Center, to Chemical Biology and Brain Institutes, to name a few. Mid-career faculty sometimes also benefit from strategic nurturing. They may still be growing their skills and expanding their impact. In fact, many mid-career faculty are exploring new and productive avenues of research and creative expression. With some modest help, they could anchor the growth of new programs. To grow our arboretum of faculty, we also need to be able to readily identify each of them and to promote their accomplishments to the world. This requires a culture that rewards scholarly achievement and creative expression, not simply the total number of grant dollars, although that too is important. The photos and histories of our magnificent trees are easily found on the web. There is even a QR code, as shown here, that will lead you on a walking tour of our most iconic trees. Similarly, we need to be able to find information about our faculty, whether they are in VU or in VMC, whether they are currently or previously at Vanderbilt, and whether they have retired or died. A readily accessible database of faculty, their publications, and their achievements for all faculty, Vanderbilt faculty, does not currently exist. As an elected representative of Vanderbilt faculty members, I look forward to working together in a collegial and cooperative manner with the Chancellor and Provost to achieve our common goals. We are indeed at a critical juncture in the history of Vanderbilt, and we must continue our journey towards greater and more inclusive excellence. Only by growing an arboretum of accomplished faculty will Vanderbilt be able to do its part to solve the many challenges that lie ahead for Tennessee, the United States, and the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, for your commitment to the Vanderbilt's faculty and for the work ahead of us as the Faculty Senate. And now I'd like to welcome our final speaker of the afternoon, our featured faculty presenter, Dr. James Crow. Dr. Crow, who holds the Ann Scott Carroll Chair, is professor of pediatrics, pathology, microbiology, and immunology, and director of the Vanderbilt Vaccine Center. He is an international expert on how human immune systems react to viruses. His research has significantly advanced immunology and dramatically increased the ability to eliminate human susceptibility to many of the world's most devastating diseases, such as Zika and Ebola. In the past year, his lab has led efforts to develop monoclonal antibodies to treat and prevent COVID-19. He is also Vanderbilt University's winner of the 2021 Southeastern Conference Faculty Achievement Award, and he received the Earl Sutherland Prize for research at last year's Fall Faculty Assembly. Please welcome to the podium, Dr. Crow.
Well, thank you for having me. It's fun to be here. I have to say, I had the privilege of sitting in on the awards committee deliberations this year, and I went home after some of the deliberations one night, and I told my wife, wow, I hope they never ask me to do that again, because my colleagues in the humanities are so articulate and intelligent. I was just embarrassed to be there, and I'm scared to say anything because I'd sound stupid. And, you know, many scientists who work in the lab are kind of pre-verbal anyway. So, the problem is I left my phone on, and I'm sure Siri was listening, and within about a day I got an invitation to give this talk. So my advice is either don't speak your fears out loud or turn your phone off, because you'll be punished for it. So hopefully I can offer you some comedic relief. In fact, even within science, I don't know if we can, start with slides. There's certain bigotries about what is science. And there's a long-standing quote, all science is either physics or stamp collecting. The first known attribution of this is in 1939. It's not exactly known who said it. It's usually attributed to Ernest Rutherford, who got the Nobel Prize in 1908, the father of nuclear physics and so on. He is actually buried in Westminster Abbey near Newton. And in fact, he's buried near Kelvin. This quote is also attributed to Lord Kelvin, who was William Thomson, Sir William Thomson, and then became Lord Kelvin, named himself after a river in Glasgow. So I don't know if we do that here, but if at some point there may be a Lord Cumberland, I guess, for our river. So the attribution is not known who said this. But it's sort of a sneering comment to someone who's a biologist, actually. In fact, for me, it was particularly offensive when I learned about it, because I like stamp collecting. When I was a child, these are photographs of books that I still have that were my U.S. and my international stamp collecting books, and I tried to fill them up. I wanted one of every stamp, you know, in the country or the world. And also my parents, I don't know how many of you remember the Little Golden Book series. My parents gave me this book of seashells of the world, and I tried to collect one of every shell. And I actually have this book at home. I had little pencil checks when I got it. I checked off the shell that I got it, and I wanted. And this, for me, led to stamps, plants, seashells. If you come to my office, it's full of all kinds of stuff. But also words and art and images, I think, has been very important for me. And then when I was a postdoc, I lived in, I was at NIH in Bethesda area, and my wife and I didn't have much money, but we had little kids and we were trying to get out of the house. And we had this book, you know, Free Things to Do in Washington, D.C. And one of them was to go to the Kensington Orchid Gardens, which had 5,000 to 10,000 different types of orchids. Now, orchids are all the same. You look at them, it's just a flower, but each one is unique in its own way. And around that time, a book, well, actually a New Yorker article came out by Susan Orlean about, which became Orchid Thief, and there's been a movie adaptation about a guy, John LaRoche, who was kind of a nutty guy in Florida who became obsessed with many different collecting histories, but eventually orchids was one. And this ghost orchid in Florida is very, very rare. And he was one of the collectors. And he actually went all around the world stealing orchids from other countries and violating national sovereignty. But it sort of reflected in the article not only his obsession as a collector, but giving them to people who wanted one of the rarest of the rare. And I thought, that, I identify with that, you know, with collecting one of everything, and especially the rare. So that type of thing has inflected my career in the way I think about science. So we have done a project called the Human Immunome Project, where I said, well, why don't, you know, when next-gen sequencing came out, I was running the genomics core for a while, and I thought, this stuff's cool, but I should do something with it. And so we started taking blood, and I said, well, why don't we sequence every antibody and T-cell receptor on the planet? That would be good, just sort of sequence it all. And so we've been collecting all of the genetic sequences, which could number as many as 10 to the 18th on the planet. It was not known. So we started in, and how did we actually do this? We would take individuals over into the Vanderbilt clinic. This is a hero of mine, Morris Abogi, who was a physician who took care of the Ebola outbreak in Lagos, Nigeria, kept it all within a hospital. 8 of his colleagues died, but the virus never left the hospital. If it had gotten out into Lagos, which has an uncertain number of people, but about 20 million people, probably about 1 million people would have died. So he got Ebola while taking care of this case, survived with just water and a bucket. It's pretty amazing. Very courageous person. Came to Vanderbilt, told us this story, and also gave us a blood sample. And you can see this is called leukapheresis, where the blood comes out one pipe, we filter all the white blood cells, and we put the red blood cells back in, so he's not anemic, but we can harvest. And we took 40 billion white blood cells from him and many other individuals. Actually, I've done it as a HIPAA violation, I'm telling you, one of our subjects. With 40 billion white blood cells, you can just sort of feed them into a next-gen sequencer and say, how many sequences does a person have? And make a very large database and sort of use a lot of time of acre on it. But we were asking questions like, how many antibodies does a person have? And then you and I, do we overlap a lot or any or little? Do we all have private sort of histories in our immune system, or do we share things? And it turns out each person at any one time has about 10 or 20 million different antibodies floating around just in their blood, not even their whole body. We didn't grind up the whole body. We just took the blood. And in the center, we find in general, people share about 2 in 1,000 or 0.2%. So you and I have identical antibodies, even though we've had different lives. That sounds like a small amount, but that comes out to about 30 to 50,000 antibodies that you and I would share identically, no matter what our lives have been. And I started liking that kind of scale, you know. And I did not know we had an Institute of Space, so thank you for recognizing that today. And I started thinking, what we do as immunologists, it's like what those space guys do. They look out in the night sky, and if you've ever been, I worked in various places in my training, like in Kenya, where there's not a lot of light pollution. You look up and you just say, wow, there are so many stars in the sky. And I've always wanted to work at a scale like that. But, you know, in fact, I figured out that we work much larger scale than these astronomer people, because you talked about the precision of numbers. So this investigator, Hector Hippolyta at Yale, counted the number of visible stars that, you know, there's a threshold of 6.5 in terms of what you can actually see. This is the exact number of stars that you can see from Earth, and you can't see them all at one time because you have to be in the northern and southern hemisphere at the same time. So the number of stars you can see is approximately the same numbers of faculty that we have that you just heard, about 4,500 or so. But in fact, we're measuring tens of millions of things inside individual bodies. So just think of the complexity of that information system within your body. It's bigger than all the stars in the sky. And then, you know, I've been really interested in the whole idea of flow states. Chihai Csikszentmihalyi, who wrote about flow states, these activities, atelic activities that are just intrinsically fun to do. When you're doing them, you say, like, I don't even want to go eat or use the bathroom. I just want to do this thing because it's so good. And so one of the categories of those activities is abstract thought. And so in our work, we started using it's sort of like a play idea. I wonder, what is the longest someone has ever remembered an infection? And so the longest we could think of was 100-year-old people, and something that happened about 100 years ago was 1918 flu. And so we did some studies with 100-year-old people, and we found they still had B cells floating around in their body, the cells that make antibodies that were for 1918 flu. It was amazing. Tony Fauci, who's now a celebrity scientist, I guess, called this the mother of all immune memory when we found these antibodies. So this is the flu protein with an antibody we recovered. And once we did that, I realized, wow, your body is a library of everything you've ever seen in your life. And so we could take blood from each of you and learn so much. It's like going to the library and checking out books and saying, what have you seen? So the next thing was, could we use this for good, not just abstract, you know, art or inquiry? Could we start using it for good for people? And one of the challenges, again, if you think about that ghost orchid, I started thinking about esoteric infections, things that are far away or very rare. And so this is a story about Marburg virus, which is a cousin of Ebola. This woman, Astrid Houston, went with her husband to Central Africa, to Uganda, And after visiting a bat cave, 40,000 fruit bats in this cave, it's a very interesting place to go, apparently. She went home to the Netherlands, got a fever, died, and they isolated Marburg virus from her blood. And so she was dead. That does not help us in terms of our research, because we need a living person. So we started thinking about this.
An adventure vacation to Uganda. And like Astrid, I visited the Python Cave in Queen Elizabeth National Park. And I also had an unremarkable contact with a bat. And I contracted Marburg. I wanted to do something, really anything to help. And then came a really important connection. A doctor read about my case in the media, and he had lived in Africa for a while. He was now leading a study to try and find a vaccine for Marburg and Ebola. He contacted me, and the next thing you know, vials of my blood were on a FedEx shipment to Vanderbilt University.
Yeah, that's the way we do it. So this is Marburg virus glycoprotein, the surface protein, and this is there's three copies altogether. It's called a trimer, and each of these yellow things are antibodies from Michelle's body. And so we made lots of antibodies. We found the ones, the needle in the haystack, searching through, that would actually kill or inhibit the Marburg virus. And we're now developing these. So these have been licensed out to MapBio, which you may know from ZMap, and the United States government has put $50 million behind this. And this is now the drug. So if you get Marburg, this is what you're going to get. And you'd say, well, who's going to get Marburg? But there's an active case in Marburg right now in sub-Saharan Africa. So we're trying to mobilize the antibody to treat the surrounding contacts. So once we'd done it with one crazy infection with one person, I started thinking, well, we could do this for all the infections. Why don't we just do them all? And so that led to an idea called HEAD 100, which is an acronym for Advanced Human Epidemic Antibody Defenses. And so we've been just chipping off. Let's find people who've survived these crazy things. And these are structures that we've done, either electron microscopy or crystallography, of human antibodies from a survivor on the virus or virus protein for all these viruses. So diarrheal viruses, mosquito-borne viruses, Zika, dengue. Dengue infects 400 million people a year, not a minor thing. Ebola, Marburg, all the flus. Each of the pandemics, middle-aged people are immune to 1957 flu, by the way, which might be our senior faculty. So we've been doing that to try to get ready for the 100 most likely to cause future epidemics. But what if you didn't know what was coming? What if something just came out of the blue and you didn't expect it and you didn't make it ahead of time? You'd want to be able to go really fast. So we started thinking about fast. And we got about a $30 million grant from DARPA, which you've probably heard about in the news in the past year. And they were just paying people, hey, could you do this in 60 days or 90 days, something like that. And so we did a simulation under this grant of taking a blood sample from a Zika survivor and going through the whole development phase and getting the cure all ready to go. And we did this live fire, and against my own wishes, my team tweeted this out live. They said, we're ready to go, and we're, day 0, day 1, day 2. I was just certain we were going to have disaster. And in fact, they beat the 90-day goal at 78 days. Now, so that was in 2019. We were getting ready to do our second simulation to fake this again in January of 2020. And you sort of see where this is going. And so I had arranged, apparently on the university side, there's this idea of sabbatical. And I guess from the medical center, we don't really have that. But through a 2-year process, I'd sort of tricked my administration into this sort of the idea of it. And so my wife and I went to Siena in February of 2020, into Italy, to try to spend 3 months there. And on March 7th, I was actually in the Duomo in Siena. It's a major, amazing Gothic cathedral, one of the most beautiful cathedrals in Europe. And when you're on the roof, you can see this unfinished wall. And that wall has been there since the 1300s. And why is the largest southern nave in Europe unfinished? Because the plague occurred and killed most of the people in Siena. And just the irony to be sitting in that church on that day, March 7th. The next day, this is my wife, Lisa, we were in the piazza, which is, again, one of the most beautiful architectural places in the world. The city closed down, the country closed down. You remember that was sort of ground zero in Italy. We had to evacuate. But 5 days later, I was in Nashville, and we launched with a sample from a survivor from Wuhan, China, of SARS-CoV-2, and this is just scenes of my team. And they launched into action. These people were working 20 hours a day for, I think, I don't know, 5 months in a row, no days off. These women, Rachel and Rachel, are working inside a refrigerator. This is a 4-degree room. We bought sleeper couches and people slept in the building. I'm not sure if we were supposed to do that, but that's what we did. And the technology we use, I don't have time to tell you about all this stuff, but it's amazing. This is called single cell biology, where you can put a single cell from a person into a grid. And each of these little slots is a single cell. And over about 20 minutes, we can see each cell make an antibody. And if it's lighting up like a volcano, those are the ones for SARS-CoV-2. So we picked some of those. And in fact, what we came up with was these two antibodies, the yellow and the purple one, binding to the SARS spike, which we published in a fashion magazine. All the science fashion magazines have one name. So one-word journals is what we say. But then the better journal to be in actually is Wall Street Journal, when these are the two antibodies that just completed a phase 3 trial and showed that it prevents COVID. And so this is going to be the prevention. The ones that are available now are for post-exposure prophylaxis and treatment. So this is for prevention. There's 3 million people immunocompromised in the United States, and this is what they'll be getting. So we're super excited about that. And so sort of in summary, we could do things ahead of time. We can move really fast. We can get into clinic now. So we're not only doing abstract thought, we're actually trying to help people. And what I want, why are we even in a university? I could be in a biotech or something, but what is the value of university? And I think all this sort of started with, if you think back where I started, was the idea of, the complexity and the contradiction and the beauty of the human immune system. How big is it? Are we shared? And these sorts of things. And I want to think about the beauty just for a second with you, because I think this touches on what a university brings that no other venue can bring. And that is that there's a diversity of ways of knowing. Like, how do you know things? And we each have our disciplines, and they have their limitations. So I just want to leave you with the thought of art and science, because it's been very meaningful to me. So on the left here is Hector Hippolyta, and we've heard several times about Haiti today. Hector Hippolyta is the most prominent artist from Haiti, was a painter in the 1940s and sort of the canonical painter from Haiti. And one of the things I love about his painting, as well as that of many artists of the African diaspora, is this play between symmetry and asymmetry. So in this still life that was at one point in Jonathan Demme's collection, you can see there's a high degree of symmetry, and yet there's asymmetry. And you see this in a lot of the art of African diaspora, or jazz, or genres like that, where you have a form, but you play with the form. And in fact, if I take you back to our 1918 antibody work, I would like to think that Hector Hippolyta would understand, antibodies have a fold, but each one is just a little bit different, and understand how that could be at the same time. They're always the same, but they're a little bit different, and that is the key to their power and specificity and extreme diversity in the immune system. And just show you another artist. This is an untrained artist or self-taught artist from our state, Memphis, a very prominent artist, Hawkins Bolden, who became blind at 8 after an injury. So he's a blind, very poor person living in Memphis who used trash to assemble sculptures and become a very prominent sculptor in the self-taught art world. And this piece on the left is actually in my office. You can't come to my office right now, but maybe someday. And you could see the circular form, but again, a lot of asymmetry, and really just astounding that a blind person could do these visually compelling works. You should, look at him. And for me, we were doing work on rotavirus, and rotavirus makes these particles, and then this particle is covered with human antibodies to rotavirus, which is the most common cause of diarrhea in children. And if you blow up this little region, you can see there's 3 antibodies at the 5-fold, the pentagonal or fivefold. There's no antibodies at this place, this spike on the virus. There's 3 here, there's 2 here. So there's different types of symmetry in these viral particles. They're called icosahedral. And so you have to deal with perfect symmetry that's a little bit asymmetric. And the human immune system can differentiate these things. It's really interesting. And honestly, I'm not being facetious. I think these ways of knowing through art, pattern recognition, diversity of form, they really can inform the way we think about biology and even harder real sciences like physics, maybe. So, hundreds of people have been part of this with me, and I can't say all of their names, but the young people who are smart and work hard have been a big inspiration to me, and especially in the last few years. We have collaborators all over the world. People gave us a lot of money, including Dolly Parton, our local celebrity. Actually got to have dinner with Dolly Parton not so long ago, and what an inspiring person. I mean, I was just really blown away to hear Nelson Mandela playing Dolly Parton, Jolene, in Rikers prison, because the prisoners understood that story of struggle and desire. I found her to be very inspiring. So all of these threads in your life, I think you can bring to your research, and you can do good for the world at the same time. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Jim, for your presentation and for all that you and so many of your colleagues have done throughout the pandemic and long before. And thank you, everyone who has attended today. For those of you who are here in person, we welcome you to join us outside for a reception. We ask that you keep your mask on even during the reception unless you can maintain 6 feet physical distancing. For those of you online, thank you for watching today, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. With that, we now conclude the 2021 Fall Faculty Assembly. Thank you.